I don't know if there's more.
Right, financial services. Yes.
All right, we were recording. This is the Eye Level to High Level podcast, recording number 7. Take it away.
Hello, this is Jimmy Rios.
Hang on,
Welcome.
Jimmy. Red camera.
Where am I going?
Yep, there you go. Yep.
Boom. Let me know when to start.
Go for it.
Hello, this is Jimmy Rios. Welcome to the Eye Level to High Level podcast. Always fun to be able to come here and talk about life and what we're doing to take you to the next level. I'm so excited for today's show. I got a good friend, Josh Norris, with Arrive Financial Services, who's joining us today, and we're gonna hear an amazing story and something that really hit home to me in my life as I listened to what happened in his life and what motivated me to make some moves and to really build a vertical for my business, because I thought more outside of, how do we help more people with something that is probably not talked about inside of a household, maybe because of lack of knowledge, and two, because nobody likes to talk about this stuff, right? So I really want to share with you guys what this is about. And I think it's important that you understand, how important this topic is. So I'm going to open it up and have Josh introduce himself and tell a little bit about what got you into this realm of business as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is great. You were on my podcast not too long ago, which is a lot of fun. You guys ought to check that out. Jimmy did a great job.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'll give just a little background on me. So I am an Arizona native. I'm one of few, in that realm. But I've been in business pretty much my entire adult life. At 19, I started my first company. At 27, I started a company that I ended up selling after having for 15 years. And actually, no, I was 23. Yeah, so I sold it several years back, and that was a digital agency. And I've always been interested in business, always loved it. And, when you're in business, you're trying to always protect your downside, and it can be kind of a scary times. You have your ups and downs, and I'm married, just celebrated 19 years last week, and I have 3 kids. Thank you. Yeah, 15, 13 of my boys, 7 is my daughter. And a few years back, after I sold my company, I had some really bad health issues come out of the blue. I had heart failure originally right before I sold my company, and I was in the hospital for a couple weeks. And I was fortunate because, they were able to kind of get medications in me to help me get back to normal, which would take about 4 months.
Wait, heart failure, and you're how old?
I'm 40. I'm about to be 42 tomorrow.
So, but when it happened, you were how old?
38.
Oh.
Yeah.
So 38, do you drink, smoke, any of those?
I would have. I know I didn't really. I mean, I would do a cigar every once in a while.
Right.
I had actually a cigar group, but it was like once a month, and I'd have drinks here and there. But I was actually very healthy at this point in time. I had worked out just over 1,100 days in a row, which nobody should ever do. That's a dumb thing to do, but I did. I didn't miss a workout for 1,100 days, and so it took me by surprise. And going through that 2 weeks in the hospital and 4-month process of getting back, I'm like, okay, I started to feel better. And then by that December of that year, I was setting records in the gym. I thought I'd made a full recovery.
Wow.
And then fast forward to July of the next year, and I started getting the same types of symptoms, which when you have congestive heart failure, your body starts to fill up with fluid. You get this weird cough. You're out of breath. You can't sleep. And I'm like, and it was just a nightmare because I'm like, this isn't happening again. So finally, I had a good friend of mine, John, who had some heart issues himself. So we had that in common. He called me after our wives had talked that morning. And John's one of the few people who could talk to me like this. But he's like, hey, your wife says that, you're not feeling good again. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks. I said, if I don't feel better by Wednesday, I'm going to go into the hospital. And this is a Monday. And he said, well, you might not have another Wednesday. So you need to get your you know what in the hospital. I'm like, oh, okay. I went downstairs, said, "Hun, it's time to go." So we went down to the hospital. I'm thinking it's going to be the same kind of thing, maybe a couple weeks, which, it's no fun spending a day or an hour in a hospital,
Right.
nonetheless, a couple of weeks. But then they started doing all these tests. They started getting me on, medications, and nothing was working. And about 2 weeks into it, after being originally at Mercy Gilbert, then Chancellor, sent over to Chandler Regional, they were like, we don't know. We're going to have to try to get you into the advanced heart failure team over at St. Joe's. And they did. And then I'm at St. Joe's, and they think, okay, we're going to be able to get you back on medication originally. And then nothing was working. And Dr. Brady over there, which he's an amazing part of the story, but he's the one that heads it up. And he said, listen, if my doctors can't get you back to normal, we need to start looking at that alternative, which is an LVAD, which is a machine that they put in your heart. Because my other two options that they told me was, one, I could go home and they could treat symptoms, and I had about 90 days to live.
Wow.
I came in with what was called an ejection fraction, which is how they measure how your heart's pumping. A normal person is generally over 40 and can be, real healthy persons, 50, 60. I was at a 12 when I came back.
Wow.
Most people are dead when they get to those levels right off the bat.
Right.
So a couple days go by. They said, yep, we can send you home. You got 90 days to live, basically, or we can send you home on what's called an inotrope. An inotrope is like an adrenaline that you're hooked up on an IV drip plus treat symptoms. Maybe you got 6 months. Or we can put this machine in you, and there's no guarantee, but the machine, can keep you alive until you can get on a transplant list, because they said originally I wasn't going to qualify. I said, well, yeah, door number 3 sounds better than being dead. I've got a wife, I've got 3 kids.
And how old are your kids?
So they're 15, 13, and 7 now.
Oh, man.
So they were, several years younger then.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just like, this is terrible. So what happened is they ended up putting a temporary machine in me called an Impella. And this machine helped pump my heart. So I started feeling a little bit better. And this was just temporary to eventually get the LVAD in. And once that machine was in me, it caused me to go into VTAC. And VTAC basically just means your heart rate shoots super high. I think it was like 260. And then my heart stopped. Like they had to shock me back into life on September 11th and then again on September 14th.
Wow.
And at this point, they had to, they had already said that, okay, we're going to try to get you a transplant. And Dr. Brady, after his doctors that morning, said, no, we're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to get the LVAD and then get on the list. Dr. Brady comes to me right before they present you. And when you're going through a transplant, the way it works is they actually have to present you to a board. And this board is like 50 people at a hospital. Everybody's got to agree for you to get a transplant because organs are so scarce. It's not like, they're everywhere. They're very, very scarce. So I'm thinking, but they present you and then you get denied and then you get the LVAD. That's just the process. And I'm thinking, okay, this is the way it's going to work. And I was going to be presented on Friday. I was already scheduled the next Wednesday to get the LVAD in. Mm-hmm. And he says to me on Thursday, he's like, hey, just so you know, I'm going to go to bat really hard for you to get a heart transplant.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? And I started crying because like this was off the table. I mean, what do you mean? He says, well, when we present you tomorrow, just so you know what I mean, I've already made some calls to people I've been doing in business and medical colleagues for 20 plus years, and we're going to push very hard. Long story short, they pushed very hard. October 4th of that year, I ended up getting a heart transplant. And it was a whirlwind. You're kind of having to relearn things. Your body's adapting to a new heart. You're on a lot of immunosuppressants and all that. But fast forward, almost a couple years later, and I'm doing great, which is awesome. But again, I'd already sold my company. At the time, I was the COO of the much bigger company that bought us. I didn't like that industry anymore. And getting a second chance in your life, I'm like, I want to do something that impacts people.
Yeah.
While I was in the hospital, my now partners, Ariel and Adela came to the hospital and she did my estate plan.
Wow.
She set it up because I didn't know if insurance was going to cover this. I didn't know what was going to, and I knew I had life insurance.
So you didn't have an estate plan
Not at this
that time?
No, not at this time.
You had a will.
I didn't even have that. Like
Really?
we just kind of kicked it down the line, and it's one of those things.
I laugh only because I was that guy.
Yeah.
I've been married now for 10 years, and prior I was married to that, and my kids are in their teens now, and my daughter's 19, and for the longest time until I heard your story, did I actually put this in effect.
Yeah, and then we helped you put it together, right?
That's right.
And it was one of those things where she came to the hospital, and here's what my worry was. I knew I had life insurance, so if I died, my wife would have had plenty of money to take care of things. I didn't even know about living benefits, which I'll get to in a second. But I'm like, well, what if I live and then we've got millions of dollars of hospital bills? Because in total, my transplant plus the time I was in the hospital, it's anywhere between $2.3 and $2.6 million in estimation. A lot of money. I was very fortunate, and it did, end up getting covered. But I got a trust so that our assets can be moved in there, and that if something happened, that could be protected for my wife. And you're just kind of going through all this stuff to where she has my power of attorney. I mentioned your spouse doesn't automatically have your power of attorney to make financial and health decisions for you. A lot of people think they do, but you got to have that documented. So Adela made sure that was documented. This is before I went into
so many misconceptions out there on what people think they have, or I didn't know a lot of these things.
Right.
And I've been in this world of financial services, specifically life insurance and whatnot, for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning. So
and you want to have the power of attorney in place, but you want to have a trust to make sure your assets are there, and if something happens to you, it passes without going through probate, and it goes to your beneficiaries. You want to have your advanced medical directives, meaning, like, what do I want my care to look like?
Right.
In getting to decide that before you're in a position to actually, if you're incapacitated, you want that documented. Wow. So these are all the things that she came in and she helped doing. And when I got on the other side of it, I had the heart transplant. Now I'm in recovery, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of my life?
Wow.
Because I had already made a decision I'm leaving that other industry.
Yeah.
I'd made my money, and I just didn't like it anymore, and I wanted to do something to help people.
Yeah.
And first thought was like life insurance, and I knew Ariel and Adela were in that business because I had it. I had it young, 27, redid everything when I was 35.
Wow.
And then I found out I had living benefits, accelerated benefits, and going through a transplant, I was able to take part of that policy while I was alive. And it made up any income that I wasn't able to make while I was in the hospital and through the recovery and everything. And I just like, oh, well, this is an interesting industry. I think I could help people with this. And sat down with them. They shared what Arrive fully did, the retirement planning, the life insurance, the estate planning, how everything worked together. And granted, I did have some of these things in place already.
Right.
The estate plan I got in the hospital, but I had a lot of this stuff, and I've got a lot of familiarity with the financial world because I've been self-employed for a long time.
Right.
But I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's how I want to help people. And today, that's what I do. And they brought me on as a senior partner because I had a different business mind that could help them grow to where they want. And they've already made an incredible company, but they offered, me to come in as a partner and do that. So
that's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that, because for me it was something that motivated me. When I heard your story, I don't know. I've been doing this for a while, and of course I've been licensed for over 20 years, and but there comes a point in time where it hits the nerve.
Yep.
And for me, that hit the nerve, and I was like, I went home and talked to Sylvia, and then we had dinner with our friend Johnny and his wife, and then it hit home even more because I was like, man, this is really real. This is something that can happen. And, we built this program that I have, the eye level to high level, with the idea of helping entrepreneurs and really all people in walks of life to put themselves in a better position, right? Alleviate the burden of debt, put themselves in a position of financial freedom, but there's more to that, right?
Yep.
Because as you and I started talking and looking at how this could incorporate itself inside of our world, how can we help people? Yeah, I can show them how to make money. I can show them how to leverage and how to alleviate the burden of debt and put themselves in a better financial position. But that wasn't it. I was missing a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And tell us, for those that are listening and are entrepreneurs, and even for those that are not, why is it so important, outside of what you just said, to start thinking and planning in the way that you are doing now?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And in Arrive, we have 5 pillars that we go through when it's coming to put together a financial plan for somebody. And the first pillar is life insurance, right? This is your safety net. This could be a term policy, could be an index universal life policy, it could be a whole policy. Both the permanent products, they grow cash value. But really it comes down to like what makes the most sense for that person. And also that it has living benefits, right? That's your safety net. You hope you never use it. It's just like, getting airbags in a car.
Right.
You probably wouldn't buy a car without it, but you never want to use it, right?
Right.
That's kind of why life insurance is our foundation. But then the next thing is retirement accounts. Like what are you doing to save for the future?
Yeah.
And that can be a lot of different things. If you're an employee, it could be a 401k or a 403b, a 401a. It could be a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA. And if you're self-employed, there's ways to put more money in. There's like the solo 401ks. There's the SEP IRA. There's Simples. And we look at, okay, for you, what are you saving? What can we start putting away there? And then, we look at, okay, now that we have that, what kind of savings do you have? Do you have a rainy day fund?
Right.
Are you paying off debt?
Yeah.
Then we go into tax minimization. That's our third one. So nobody wants to pay Uncle Sam any more than they have to.
Right.
But, most of us are not really read up on the tax codes.
Yeah.
And it's important to know the things you can do if you're self-employed. And I know a lot of your audience is,
Right.
of how you can incorporate, is it an LLC the best for you, an S Corp, a C Corp? An S Corp allows you not to pay the self-employment tax,
Right.
and it passes through, and there's a way to structure things where you can minimize taxes
Yeah.
there. And then it's like, okay, well, how do I take some top line money, in a traditional IRA or a 401k off the table to where I'm not paying taxes on that now and I pay in the future? So that's that next level with the tax minimization, and it kind of incorporates. And then the fourth thing is your wealth management, right?
Right.
Things that maybe it's in market funds, like working with high level to high level, and the things that you guys provide,
Right.
and also in real estate. And there's a lot of other growth opportunities that aren't within retirement accounts, but that wealth management stage of, okay, where am I growing my money?
Yeah.
And then the last one is estate planning. That's
Yeah.
the one that, again, encompasses it all. It makes sure that, number one, your wealth is protected and is going to the right people. It makes sure that your decisions are being made on your behalf the way you want them to, and you've allocated it to people that can do that for
Right.
you. So that's when you want to start thinking about this is now. If you're listening to this, I don't care how old or how young you are,
Right.
start looking at this. And one of the things we do is we do a free consultation with everybody, and I know you do as well.
Yep.
And we don't sell anything. We literally just kind of sit down with somebody. We go through, again, our 5 pillars, and then we start doing some fact-finding information about what their situation is so that we can give them recommendations that we believe would be helpful.
Right.
And that's what I think a lot of people want these days, is really just someone to guide them and give them their expertise, like that you have or
Right.
that I have, that helps them make the right decisions
Yep.
for retirement. Because the number one thing most people are afraid about in retirement,
What is that?
it's running out of money,
Yeah. Makes sense.
right? So you got to have a plan if you don't want that to happen.
Our company is called Rios Business Advisors, and we're meant to help you not make all the mistakes that I've made over a 20-year span in business. But being with other experts and advisors in our fold helps us be better suited to talk to you about what you should do, right? And one of the biggest barriers of entry when it comes to these topics, and people always come up and say, well, I would really want this, but, and then they come up with an objection, money. right? I just don't have the money right now, or I'm not making enough, I'm unemployed, I'm this or that. And, you know, that was one of the biggest things that I thought about was like, you know, you hear about these car washes and these GoFundMe accounts when something happens, right? I don't think we're ever going to be 100% ready to do something, ever. There's always going to be something that says, you know, like gets in the way. But if you work with a team at Rios Business Advisors that's going to be able to lower that barrier of entry, get rid of those barriers so that you can get in, so that you can, in essence, get this paid so that you don't have to worry about that. Now we're thinking in the right direction because we're very cognizant. We understand that there's, you know, issues with money, right? I mean, the whole point of what we try to do is to help you. But if you don't ask for help, if you don't seek it, you're not going to find it, you know? You're not going to know because you're just thinking, well, what if, you know, like it costs too much, right? Tell us a little bit, just if we were able to lower that barrier of entry, what could really somebody that's just looking to get in with something, like how much could an estate plan cost? And I know there's different variables that will determine that, but like, you know, we talk about life insurance and I know there's different types, but at least to give some people the idea that it is attainable. Can you just give us a little light of what that could look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So like many people think, life insurance, it's, you know, super expensive.
Yeah.
But I always ask the question, it's like, well, what do you mean by that? How much do you think it costs? And then really sitting down with them and saying, okay, well, let's look at this. What kind of debt do you have? What would it take for your spouse to be comfortable for a minimum of 5 years, pay off your debt? She could have money to live on, your kids being taken care of. What would that look like? Okay, well, maybe it's $250,000, $500,000, $1 million. Well, what if we just put you into a product like a 20-year term that's got full living benefits? It's going to cover your earning years to where if something happens, you got that safety net. You know, I did a policy just last week, and it was, I think there were 38. Yeah, 38. $500,000 policy, female, in good, you know, condition, and it was $42 a month. Right?
Same.
Fantastic. So it's not as expensive as people think. But if you go with a permanent product, yeah, it's a higher cost because it lasts forever. However, it grows cash value and there's some benefits there. From the estate planning side, we charge a flat $19.95, or anybody working with Rios Business Advisors, actually we do for $17.95, $200 off. But and that takes care of everything. We help fund it. We make sure that your assets are actually funded into the trust. And all that means is we're actually, picture the trust being a safe. We're actually moving those things into the safe for you to make sure that it's there. Because if it's not in the trust and it's not funded, well, then chances are it's actually not going to be, it's still going to go through probate. So
that's beautiful. Yeah. And, you know, Rios Business Advisors is such a big proponent of wanting to help others that, you know, we've put together our own program to facilitate in the cost process. So, I mean, there are going to be some things that you will need to do to be able to qualify for that. But what we want to do is help you get there and do the things you need to do so that you're well protected and you have your estate plan and not feel that you don't have the money to do it. We help in that regard. So don't think you can't. You need to reach out. You'll have our information at the end of the show. We've come to that awful point where we have to say goodbye. Yep. And Josh, I thank you again for,
of course, man,
for being here and taking the time to enlighten us with so much education. I know we definitely got to do another one because there's still a lot of things I had. I mean, I had a bunch of questions, and you know, but it's all about, you know, somebody's listening out there that's thinking about this and just hasn't done it. Yep. I was that guy. You were that guy. Yep. There's many out there that are that guy or girl. So, you know, think about it. Take yourself to the next level. Tune into our next show, and we'll be here to help you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All clear?
That's awesome.
Sweet.